What is up, guys? Janko here, and today we're going to be talking about everything you need to start throwing frog. Let's get started. Alright guys, so today we're going to be talking about throwing a frog and just kind of the basic gear that you need. This is a heavy cover technique, as you guys can see, and if you guys have fished frogs, you guys probably know that most frogs are going to come with a very heavy wire hook, and a lot of times you're going to be fishing them around heavy cover, usually grass. You can fish them around wood too, and it's a great way to imitate bluegill, shad, frogs, and anything that will be on the surface. And it's a great bait in the summertime, early fall and things like that. Love fishing around grass, and it's a very fun way to fish. And to get the best hookup ratio and put the most fish in the boat, you have to have very effective gear, and that's super key with the frog, because what's happening essentially is you have this frog sitting on the water, and it pulls that frog down maybe six inches under the water, and when you set the hook, there's not a lot of water in between that fish and the hook. So when you set the hook, you have to have a heavy rod to jack those fish, because generally, you're fishing a bottom bait, it's like 5 to 10 feet under the water. You set the hook, and that water resistance really helps drive the hook into that fish, but you don't have that with a frog, because it's so shallow and so high up in the water column that you don't have that water resistance. So you need to have a super heavy rod, you need to be fishing braid, and that's really key to getting those fish in the boat. But you also want to have a rod that has tip, so it's a lot easier to walk the frog and give it action in the water. But as far as the baits go, just keep it very simple. The Spro frog, the Dean Rojas 65 bronze eye frog, as you guys can see here, this is a nice bluegill imitation, pretty beat up little frog, but colors, not real picky. I'll generally just throw straight black. There's something darker, and then right here I got a bluegill imitation. I honestly just picked it up because it looks cool, but not really many situations where I'm gonna see a difference in bites between any color, unless you're around shad. Then you can switch over to like a bait fish profile or something like that to imitate like a dying shad. But other than that, just stick to a darker color. Usually straight black is gonna be the way to go. And then I'll also go to popping frogs. I like this a lot of times when I'm trying to slow down and fish targets. So if you're fishing like a specific grass clump or like a specific laydown, and there's a fish there, or it's a very high percentage area, you can take this, you can walk it, and you can make a nice plopping sound and fish it really slow. In my opinion, you can fish it a lot slower than this, and it helps attract a little bit more attention because it's got that cupped mouth and makes a little bit more sound. And then the other frog that I'll use is a junior size Spro, or also the Jackal Cara, both really good frogs. And I'll do this sometimes as a follow-up bait. When they're missing the bigger frog, I'll go down to this junior size and throw it at them, and then also use this, just in general when the bite's a little bit tougher, or when I feel that I'm around smaller bait fish or targeting a smaller class of fish. You guys may be down south where you have southern string fish, you're fishing for 20 pounds to win a tournament, whereas up here I'm fishing for 10 to 12. So I don't need to use giant frogs. I don't need to be fishing for 4 to 5 pound fish. I just need to catch those consistently 2 to 3 pound fish, and those are like higher class fish in the fisheries that I fish. And you can definitely get away with these smaller frogs and catch good sized fish on them. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got for as far as frogs. But the setup is very key. The rod that I got here is very popular among Dobyns fans. It's the Dobyns Champion XP 736. Awesome rod. It's a 7'3", 6 power, and it's a great rod for pretty much any size frog. And then you can also punch with it. It's a great punching rod. But I just picked it up this spring, and I've done quite a bit of frogging with it since then, and it's been a great rod. And the biggest thing with the reel, it needs to be a high gear ratio, above an 8 gear ratio, And then it also needs to have a big spool, because a lot of times you're bombing that frog really far, and having a large spool and being able to use as much line as possible is going to be key. What I got right here is just a Daiwa Tatula SVTW. I put some like orange seal bearings in it, so it casts pretty far, but I think that I'm going to switch it out with a Corrado 200K, just because it's got a little bit bigger spool and it's also smaller. So two benefits there that definitely want to have. But you know, 736, it's such a good rod because it's got tip, but at the same time you've got a lot of backbone in this rod. As you guys can see, it's a thick boy. It's got a pretty thick backbone, and I've had no problems with losing fish on this setup right here. And then as far as line, learned some valuable lessons this year about line. I used to use 50-pound braid, but I've had several experiences with breaking fish off, so I switched to 65. And the reason that happens is because when you drop the rod tip and set the hook on a frogfish, which is technically not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to reel down, get all the slack out of the line, and then hit them. But when you have that slack line and you snap that, it shocks that line so hard that even on a 50-pound test braid, that it'll still snap. But I haven't had any problems with 65. You know, I've been trying to like reel down and not have as much slack, but a lot of times you get really nervous, or you're just so jacked up, you're not paying attention, you just hit them. So I like to have the 65 just for that extra precaution, just in case. And yeah, it's been a great setup, and that's pretty much all you guys need to be frog fishing. Just get out there, start fishing, have the right setup, and you guys will be out there catching fish on frogs. Thanks again, guys, for watching another episode of Tackle Rat, and we'll see you guys.